guys?
All right, well, just first, let's just talk about the most recent thing that happened with you, UFC 159. What do you think overall of the event?
Well, after you do them kind of week after week, there's never anything that is surprising anymore. But, this one of all events was probably the weirdest one, with a couple eye pokes, a dislocated thumb, and obviously a broken toe. So, I always go in and expecting the worst case scenario, and I think we had the worst case scenario. And, the week before in San Jose, we had 8 knockouts in one night out of the 12 fights. So, yeah, I was expecting the unexpected, brother. Actually, I was the one that attended to it. I as soon as the fight finished, I wiped him down, and I'm walking down the steps of the octagon to get my stuff and go to the dressing room, and Joe Rogan says that his toe's broken, so I kind of rushed back in there, but, it broke to the point where actually a fan said it looked like he was hitchhiking. And, so, and doing that, he also broke the skin, and you can see the bone. The doctor is asking me, he said, can you see the bone? And so my job was to go in there and stop the bleeding. I used, the quick aid, the hemostatic gauze pad that we use for stopping the cuts, and then I wrapped it up with with tape and kind of secured it. But yeah, I did the triage, brother, and then sent him off to the hospital.
See, I'm such a wimp. I could never do your job. As soon as I actually heard Joe Rogan say your toe was broken, or his toe was broken, they panned down. I looked away immediately and never looked again. So I just I can't handle that kind of stuff.
Well, good.
Jeff had a fight. Go ahead.
No, I guess that's considered job security for me, right?
Yeah, exactly. You never have to worry about me taking your job. The one guy you were in the corner with, and he gave you, you didn't have to worry about his fight, was Roy Nelson. He made quick work of it. Well, Jeff, first let me ask you. I actually didn't talk to you much about it. What did you think about, you got to see Roy's performance? I mean, it wasn't long, but what did you think about it?
Well, it's definitely not the first time, but, during that process, I'm telling the guy sitting next to me, I said, you're looking at Czech Congo, and he probably has the best physique in the mixed martial arts, and you got Roy Nelson, who has the worst physique in the martial arts, and one is big and one is small, but, Roy Nelson's always one to always be a major threat, and, I didn't know it was going to happen this quick and that early, but that's how it goes.
Right. Yeah, if you look at him, you definitely wouldn't have picked that it was Roy that was doing the damage that quick. Jeff, what did you think of the performance?
Oh, I thought it was a great performance. I mean, it was a typical Roy Nelson performance as late. Roy hit you with the overhand right. Most of the time after that, you're going to sleep, and that was the case.
Yeah, and Jazzy, weren't you working his hands before?
Well, I still train him.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So what's going on with
Jeff Mayweather?
Busy, man. Very busy.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. You work one corner or the other. I'm curious first, you do both boxing and MMA. So explain how that works. When you work for, the UFC, you work one corner the entire night, and then for boxing, someone just specifically hires you to work them for that night, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty much, the UFC hires us on a fight-by-fight basis. We're freelance contractors, Don Houseman, myself, and the other guys. And but, if there's an open assignment, I'll take it. Tomorrow I'm going to Germany to work with Vladimir Klitschko, so it's one or the other. But I enjoy doing that. And, yeah, just to make it simple, because a lot of guys want me to wrap their hands, and a lot of guys want me to work their corner, and I just kind of lock into one corner, which is usually the red corner, and let the UFC decide who's going to be in that corner and who's going to be in the blue corner. Makes it a lot easier for all of us.
Have you ever, do you actually, because of, in the UFC example, do you root for the guys that are in your corner? Or actually, maybe do you root for them to get beat up so you can work more? I don't know, how does that work?
Nah, I'm pretty neutral. I love all these guys. They're all good guys, and, Jeff could attest to that, these guys are modern-day gladiators, but they're the nicest guys in the world, and, I have to respect them just by being neutral. And, the thing that, it's the luck of the draw. If they get me, and if I could, carry them on to another round, then, I've done my job, and these guys understand that.
Now, Jeff, have you ever had any stitch working in your corner, whether you were a fighter or training somebody?
I'm not sure. I know he did when he was. I don't know. Were you there at the show What we were doing, the actual show?
Sure, I was, man. I was in the other corner. And, but you know, and you know what? And now with Jeff Mayweather, and this is going way back, I first saw his talents in Bozeman, Montana, and we went up there and did some fights, and I think Jeff was there, and we've actually worked corners together, you know. So that was the whole start of our career working together.
Did you start with the MMA or did you start with boxing? I mean, how does your career go back?
Well, you know, actually my career started in around 1974 when I was stationed in Thailand during the Vietnam War and while I was in the Air Force, and there I studied you know, Taekwondo, which was a Korean art, and then I progressed into the Muay Thai system, and that's how I got started in the game. And when I got out of the military, I was working in Oakland, California, and I got into the boxing game there, and you know, with the boxing and the Muay Thai, I kind of created ASK, American School of Kickboxing, and that's where I had my fighters, and that's where I learned to be a cut man.
You know, and I guess you first got famous through the UFC. How does a cut become famous? And did it kind of surprise you that you became, you know, someone that people knew?
Yeah, it's still a mind blower, you know, to the point where I'm at. I mean, listen, I've done 4 movies. I've been in like 20 reality shows. I have my own trading cards. I'm in video games. I have my own book that came out, and you know, I have my own line of signature tape, and all this crazy stuff happened just because I'm working in the mixed martial arts, you know. And but I got to thank Dana, you know, Dana and Jeff could remember, you know, we're on the gyms trying to make a buck, and you know, having the wives tell us to get a job because there was no money in this game, and Dana and Lorenzo and Frank bought the UFC, and they remembered me, and they gave me a call and brought me on board. I could just show Jeff a thing or two, but we have worked together in this Pro Tips for You, whatever it was called, and Jeff and I did some segments together, and still haven't got paid, but at least we did the segments.
Right. Well, the other thing is this: is that also I brought Mike. I don't know how to say Mike's last name, and Mike, who actually, when I used to train Mike, and Mike, he wanted to be involved in boxing so bad, and I just told him, I said, you're a paramedic, you need to try to be a cut man. And so I told him, you know, about Stitch, and Stitch, you know, took him under his wings and, you know, taught him how to wrap hands and things, and I mean, he's doing well for himself. He's doing great.
Yeah, Mike Afanasiev, and has really turned out to be a premier cut man, and has really worked with Ishe Smith, and he's worked with Jesse Vargas, and you know, he's working with us in the UFC, and he spends like 6 weeks at a time in Brazil, so he's done a tremendous job, man. But Jeff is the one that brought him to the table.
Worst cut that you've ever had to deal with at in either boxing or MMA?
Well, you know, there's been like a ton of them, you know, believe it or not. But I think in boxing, you know, it had to be the moments with Raul Marquez when he fought Keith Mullins, and that's when he defended his IBF. I think it was super middleweight, junior middleweight title. He ended up with 5 cuts and 2 major cuts, in something like 75 stitches altogether. And you know, I kept him in the game, and he ended up defending his title, and that was great. But in the life of MMA and the UFC. Man, there's like 100 of them that I could name off for you.
And then as far as, do you prefer like working boxing, or is MMA more of your passion now?
Well, yeah, it's you know, the martial arts have always been my passion. Economically, I'll take boxing in a heartbeat, you know. But if they all pay the same, I'd stick in the MMA world.
Right. And is there a different strategy as far as, you know, because, you know, boxing, you might have 10, 12 rounds as far as the way you deal with someone, as opposed to like MMA where it's just 3 rounds normally?
No, not at all. You know, the techniques that work for one, just like wrapping the hands, you know, the same technique that I use for wrapping a boxer's hands, I'll do for the MMA world, except I don't put the extra padding that we have in boxing. And when it comes to cuts, you know, it's all in proper technique, and, you know, if it works for one cut, it should work for all cuts.
You know, I apologize. I haven't brought Ashley in here. She's been awful quiet. Our other co-host here, Ashley. Do you have anything you want to ask this year? We haven't heard from you at all.
Yeah. Okay. This has always boggled my mind. I mean, I know when there's a bad cut, you do put some kind of chemical in it. I'm not sure what it is, but it always fascinates me how it can close up the cut but not bother the fighter's eyes. How is that possible?
Well, it's the primary medication that we use is the adrenaline chloride 1000. It's also known as epinephrine, that's the one that's applied. It's a liquid form. It's applied in a swab. And basically what, the mechanics behind that is it's a vessel constrictor, so it closes up the blood vessel. And, but yeah, it gets into the eyes, not really going to be affecting it a whole lot. I was just looking at a video today where in Brazil, these guys were fighting MMA, and they were putting some super glue on one of the signs up above the guys when the guy was sitting down, and crazy glue got into his eye, and he thought it was bad sleep, and he rubbed it, and it ended up closing up his eye, so he had to go in and had it surgically reopened again. But yeah, the medications that we use, that's why the commissions, when they approve them, those are the things that they look at. Are they going to be detrimental to the health of a fighter? Are they going to make any changes? And they work great, and they don't affect the eyes or anything like that.
That's so interesting. I've always been curious about that, but you've now cleared it up for me.
I got answers for about everything you ask, Ashley.
I don't know. She's a law student. I bet she has a lot of questions you have a clue about.
Well, I'm talking about in my industry. I got answers about everything on what I do. And that's the thing with me is I've studied the game, and I still study the game. And try to make it better. And like I've just introduced a new hemostatic gauze pad that's 100% natural that stops bleeding in a heartbeat. And we've been using it in the UFC for like the last year and a half, and I've used it with the Klitschko brothers, and I've used it with Andre Ward, and and these are the new items that I'm bringing to the table because not a lot of guys, cut men, could get a prescription like I do to take care of these fighters, and the bottom line is take care of the fighters. Do you ever have like in the last UFC, for instance, you worked the red corner? Do you have guys that are like, I got to have it in my corner, certain fighters, and is that ever a problem, or is it just they understand you're in one corner? Yeah, it happens all the time. And, usually with the big guns, Burt Watson's our coordinator. He'll make the adjustment. So if you see me in the blue corner, there's a reason why. And that was by special request. Uh-huh. Hey, Jeff, if you have, you've known Stitch for so long, how come you never haven't used him then?
Well, Stitch is basically, by the time, I needed Stitch while I was actually training fighters and stuff like that. Stitch was already established and, to the point of he's in such high demand that, it's not easy to get, him in our corner. Yeah, so, I've worked with Jeff before, and, I've been blessed that I have assignments booked all the way up till September the 7th right now. So, I'm real happy with that, and I know 50 Cent, when I went by their gym, they're trying to tell me to work with this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, and I told them, I'm booked. I can't help you, man. Right. I'm booked. And I turned down Amir Khan. They wanted me to work with Amir Khan this last Saturday, but I was already booked, So, yeah, hopefully one of these days I'll, love working with Jeff. He's a great corner man, a great trainer, and it's always nice to work with, any of the Mayweather brothers. I used to work with Floyd on a regular basis, and, I've worked with Roger when he had Ishe, so, we do have a history. Yeah. Well, you're doing something right when you turn down work, right, when you got too much. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I ain't bitching. Well, we know you got to get out here. After Jeff, do you have anything else you want to say before we let Stitch go?
No, we'll be watching out for you.
All right. That's fair enough.
And Stitch, do you have anything you want to say? Do you want to plug Twitter or anything like that before we let you go?
Yeah, you can always get a hold of me at StitchDuran.com, or, if you're interested in some of the Stitch Premium products that I just put together, you go to StitchPremium.com.